Hey, I'm Charlie from Soundhaus, and I'm here with Jen Cohn. How are you doing today?
I am good. Hi, Charlie. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful too. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Charlie, I am so excited. I have to tell you, you are my first Overwatch interview
Oh,
ever.
you're
The
my
first one.
you're my first Pharah interview.
This is fabulous. This is very cool. Yeah. The,
All right.
I've been marveling at the enormity of the Pharah thing. I've done a bunch of video games over the years, and this is by far the one that's like swept the world most.
Mm.
And I've been getting all sorts of really interesting attention. It was unexpected because, like, while I got some cool kudos for the other ones, this one has really gotten a lot of attention. So it's cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, the things it's blown up. I like it's got so huge. When you first got involved, did you know how big it was going to be?
Absolutely not. Not a clue. No. I mean, I had done the Old Republic for Star Wars, and I'd worked on that for, oh God, like 7 years. And I thought that that was a big game. And then I got Farah, and I heard that it was going to be big because it was Blizzard, but I really didn't understand what that meant.
Yeah.
And then it started a little over a year ago was the first time I was on set for a movie, and one of the grips or one of the assistants
Mhm.
said that he had IMDb'd me and saw that I was Farah for Overwatch and completely lost his shit. And I was like totally lost his mind. And I was saying, oh my God, wait, I guess this is a big deal. And since it's been teenage boys or like 12 to 15-year-old boys and like guys who work in sound and as grips on movies, all just lose their minds whenever it comes up that I'm Farah, or they will have checked me out and will know that I'm Farah before we meet. So it's like funny. It's
Oh,
cool.
have you had a moment yet where you're like, yo, do you know who I am?
You know what? I did it once. I
Oh,
did. I did it once. I was just at a baby shower over the holidays. You know what? I did it twice. I'm lying.
oh.
Twice for the holidays. I was at a baby shower and I was at like my in-laws, my husband's family's nephew, blah, blah. And I'm talking to him. He's 14 years old. This guy, Tony, he's great. And I'm like, so what video games do you into now? And he says, what are you playing? And I'm like, so do you play Overwatch? And he's like, yeah, so I'm Farah. And like his eyes go wide and he can't believe it. He's like all playing it cool. And then I did the same thing with friends of mine who we went to visit. Their 10-year-old son, Jack, said that he played Overwatch and he like lost his mind and wanted photos of me, best friend, to show his friends that he met me. And so, like I said, it's like it seems to be tween boys and like 20-something-year-old film grips who all like go nuts and do backflips. It's very cute.
Wow. Was there a point when it hit you like, oh wow, this is huge? Like, was there like a moment that you can put down?
Let me think. You know what? I think it's still hitting me because I'm so separate from it. Most of the people who are doing it are in LA. I have only ever met everybody in person once in a studio. I've never been to Blizzard. So I'm really outside of the mania of it. So every time that I get an Instagram, request or a Facebook friend request, or I'll get through social media and like a request for an autograph, or that's where I say, oh my gosh, this is humongous. And then when I went online, oh, you know what? When I got my action figure, what's it called? Something pop.
Oh,
What are they called?
the oh, is it Amoeba? I think
Wait, what? Hold on.
yeah.
Wait. So I can remember. Yeah, like the pop game.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah,
pop games,
the Funko.
the
Yeah, yeah,
figurine.
yeah.
That I said, oh my God, I have an action figure. That's when I knew it was really good. I said, okay, I have made it. I have arrived. I have an action figure. This is good. And then I made my husband order it for me. So that was, yeah.
Um,
Now I'm really living.
what was it like in like the Blizzard environment working with like Michael Chu and with Andrea? What's the workflow like?
Andrea are dolls. They have made it so much fun. Again, like I said, I go to a studio and I have like a bunch of hours that I go through a script and I'm by myself and with an engineer, and the engineers are really rocking where we record. And it's it's really fun. They make me feel very embraced. They're very encouraging. We play around a lot. We joke around a lot. They are lovely to work with. It's a pleasure. And they're super smart. I mean, the way that they've thought out the character and the nuances of the character. And when I have questions about what's going on or what backstory is, everything has been so beautifully thought through. So I end up getting really explicit direction and really clear intentions to tell me what to do. It's nice.
You mentioned you get really clear, explicit direction. Is there anything where you put your own personality into it, or is there any of the personality that Farah's got that you see in yourself?
I think I'm goofier than Pharah. I think I'm a lot sillier than Pharah. When we first started working on Farah's character, the way she was described to me was, think of her as being like Captain America. Like, think of her as being super righteous, that she's just righteous. So I think I'm a lot more bent than Pharah is. So when she has kind of a sillier take or a wackier take, that's me kind of peeping through. And my instinct is always to like either make characters sillier or more sinister. That's where just I naturally, as an actor and as a voice actor, like to go. So the more just sort of calm, honest, righteous takes are definitely because I've been directed, no, take it calm. Keep it very straight. It's very sincere, and I have to be reminded.
What was the process like with where you first got involved with Blizzard? Did you audition, and what was it like between first making contact and when you got the call saying, "Hey, you're Farah"?
I honestly, if I remember this correctly, oh my gosh, I had done some voice stuff for Warcraft. So that was how they got acquainted with me. And again, I've done a bunch of games before, so my name was out and around. Most of the voice actors in the US are in LA and not in New York. Yeah. So I'm sort of in a much smaller pool being in the New York crew. So I had done that, and then they brought me in, and at the time, it was under a different name when they had me audition for it. And I wasn't clear what the name of the character was or anything, and I did this very serious, sinister version of Pharah as an audition. Oh. And and then I think it was between 4 and 6 months later, I get booked for this job, but it's under a completely different name, and it's unrecognizable. And I say to my agents, I think they made a mistake. I don't think I ever auditioned for this. I have no idea what this is. I think this is an error. And I went to the studio and showed up for a job. And I said, hi, I think you got the wrong Jen Cohn. There must be another Jen Cohn who you had auditioned for this, because I don't remember auditioning for this, and I really don't know what. And they start laughing, and they play me back the takes that I had submitted. And then they went, no, it's you. This was exactly how you did it. And I hear it, and I go, oh, I remember that. Oh, wait. Oh, my God, it's that? Oh, you're kidding. I had no idea. And then we just launched into it. And it was in that session that we fine-tuned her tone, and we fine-tuned her emotional center, and we figured out like where she was coming from and what her intentions were. But upon first finding out that I was doing this character, I had absolutely no idea what the deal was. And then it wasn't until I'd already recorded it that my agent said to me, I have a feeling this is going to be a big deal. I said, what are you talking about? It's a game. No, I think it's going to be a big deal. I think this is a big character. And if I remember right, the session was on my birthday. That first session was on my birthday. That's so fun.
You mentioned that you're in New York and it's like a much smaller pool. Your husband, Robert Seager, he's in movies. Surely there's also a bigger market for both of you on the West Coast, or are you just more a fan of that East Coast life?
I have to tell you, I feel like we lucked out in such a big way. Rob, when he started getting involved in movies, was already established because he had been the editor-in-chief of The Onion. And so when he started in movies, he already had a great agent. He already had great jobs. He was sort of able to transition in a way where he didn't have to go to LA. And there is a very big voiceover market in New York, but it's primarily for advertising and for promos. So like commercials, TV, that's all in New York. And I had established a good career doing that in New York. Mm-hmm. And both of our families are from here. And we both really prefer being New Yorkers. So we have a great relationship with LA. We have a really good time. We go out very often, and we have a bungalow we like to rent in Venice, and I have a pair of rollerblades. I leave at my best friend's house. So I skate on the boardwalk in Venice, and I have my favorite place to get coffee, and I have my place I like to get my breakfast burrito, and I ride a bike to my agents, and I sort of pretend I'm Malibu Barbie when I'm in LA. It's like this fun thing, but I have no pull to live there. Like, I would prefer living in New York, as does Rob. Like, we both really like it this way. And because we're in New York, it's not like we're living somewhere where no one ever goes. So I get to work, he gets to work. And if we jump back and forth sometimes, that's fine. But people pass through if they need to. So it works.
New York, it hasn't got a huge voice actor pool, but it is quite a fashion hotspot. And for the past 4.5 years, you've been...
Wait, you know what? You're going to have to stop. Because... New York does have a huge voiceover pool. New York, the way a dear friend of mine who has lived on both coasts said it better. Mm-hmm. The way he phrased it was, there are way more voiceover people in LA, but a lot more of them stink. And in New York, it's a much tighter pool, but everyone is excellent. So the competition is more fierce. There is a very strong voiceover community in New York. And relatively speaking, I mean, other than Los Angeles, it's the biggest, and this is the biggest advertising hub. So for commercials, this is where everyone is. So while the cartoon market and much of the video game market is in LA, almost all of the advertising and the promos and the books on tape, all of that is in New York. Wow. So...
I've been told off.
So, I'm just setting you straight, babe. Yeah, it's New York. New York is a great place to be as a voice actor, particularly if where you make your living is in commercials. It's fabulous. So, and it's a really cool community to be in the voiceover community here. Everyone is very smart. Anyone who's ever in the room is someone who should be in the room, and we all know each other. I mean, there's maybe there are 100 people, 150 people who actually, like, this is what they do for a living. And everyone is so cool and smart, and the casting people are smart. And because we're in New York, we tend to see each other more. Yeah. You know, in LA, because you're in your car, it's more difficult to get from place to place for castings. You would do more of your auditions at your agent's office or from home. Yeah. In New York, there's less than there was, but there still is some like audition culture where you go to casting houses and you see everyone. The VO crowd is a very cool, smart, tight-knit, awesome bunch. So I'm very happy and proud to call myself a New York City voice actor. It's really good.
Wow. I learned something today. All right.
In addition to that, there's also in New York.
There's a huge fashion scene in New York. And for the last 4.5 years, you've been fashion dilettante. How did you get involved with it? How did you start this up?
The whole fashion dilettante. Okay. When I was growing up, my mother was a children's accessories designer, and she was actually the first ever like hip, high fashion children's accessory designer in the United States. So like if when I was a kid, if you ever saw a kid wearing like an expensive, fabulous grommeted belt or like some crazy tubular belt with liquid and stars in it or whatever, it was generally my mother's, and she was in all the department stores. And so starting from the time I was like 5 or 6, I would go with her to trade shows because she didn't have anywhere to leave me. So she'd bring me with her to the trade show. And what she would do is she would give me a pad and a pen and say, Jenny, go look around and tell me what you see. If I tell you I took this as the most serious job, I would walk through these shows and like really try to get a lay of the land of what I was seeing, of what was happening in children's fashion, of like what trends were popping up, what was bubbling up in this, in the scene. And At that time, the trade shows were smaller, but it was fascinating. And then if there was something I really, really loved and I was going to die over, like we could befriend them. And sometimes they'd let us write a personal order so I could get that thing wholesale before it was even in a store.
Oh.
That's exciting. And I like was doing backflips over this. I thought this was so cool. And I did this into my teens. And then before I left for college, I would help my mother with the business. And so I sort of got my taste buds whetted for retail and wholesale. And my favorite was always seeing what trends were popping up and why were they popping up and how quickly were they developing and where were they coming from. I loved this. And then I was sort of on the fence because I always loved fashion, but I always loved acting, and I was pursuing acting. And then by pursuing acting, I got involved in voiceover, which was just the greatest thing ever because I could wear whatever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about looking, like I was in a commercial. If I don't have to wear a little sweater set. I could wear anything, and I tend to have really eccentric taste. And then a dear friend of mine, Stacia Valley Cannon, opened a store in the meatpacking district when I was like in the full bloom of voiceoverdom called Dernier Cri. And it was a really cutting edge boutique in one of the first stores in the meatpacking district. And she was one of the first people to bring major international brands into the United States. Like she broke all these fabulous brands. She would go to Paris. I forgot something. I forgot something in this story, but I'll go back. She would go to Paris to buy at the trade shows. And I, in my 20s after college, had moved to Paris. I went to go be like Kiki de Montparnasse. I went and saved money and worked under the table at a bar and performed a one-woman show in Prague. And it was really silly and awesome and a great time. But as a result, I speak French really well. And I know Paris really well, and I'm very comfortable there. And she would bring me to sort of be her second opinion / babysitter on these buying trips because she'd be all stressed out. And now here I am again, walking through these trade shows with a friend who's buying and saying, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, I love that. Can we order it as for a personal order? And all of the feelings came flooding back. And so I did that with her for years. Then she wound up closing the store. I had a baby. Rob had 2 movies come out, and 2 years went by where I didn't get to go to Paris and do all the trade shows. And I was still being a voiceover actress and being a mom and running around with Rob for movie stuff. He wrote The Wrestler, and he wrote and directed a movie called Big Fan that I executive produced. Mm-hmm. And we were running around to all these festivals, but I was missing this Paris thing terribly. And so I said to myself, how am I going to get an excuse to get to walk through trade shows in Paris again and get to do this fashion thing that I'm dying to do and be able to do it on my own merit instead of having to go through a friend and be their right-hand woman. Yeah. And I realized that I always was going to Paris with her with microphones in my bag because if I ever had to do an audition, I had to do it from the apartment we'd rent or from a hotel room. And I realized, oh, wait a second, this is perfect. If I can bring microphones with me, why don't I start doing interviews? I can start doing interviews. I can start doing trend stories. I can start doing that. And that's how I started Dilettante. And I went in with huge gusto, both New York and Paris fashion weeks, and totally went crazy and produced a bunch of videos and did a bunch of interviews and went nuts and basically blew myself out. Just completely oh my God, I can't sustain this, a one-woman show. But what happened that's really interesting is I sort of became a fashion anthropologist or a fashion sociologist. And I now will track trends and see where they bubble up globally and what's causing them. Mm-hmm. And follow, it's like how art will follow politics or how any other art form will follow the zeitgeist in the world. Fashion is the same way. And sometimes fashion will be the canary in the coal mine of what's coming next. Yeah. And that ends up being what I kind of track through crazy things like deer head graphics or diamond prints or S&M related jewelry. I'll see that all start happening in a very strange way, and I'll watch how the world shifts, where the world focus goes, and then I can talk to reps and brands and stores and talk to them about what direction to be focusing in and connect people with who they should meet.
Wow.
And my focus has become much more entrenched in going to trade shows and sort of being on the ground. Like I should sort of be called like the fashion rodent, because I'm like going back and forth in all of these booths and stalls and really touching things and talking to people. I find that more interesting than going to the big fashion shows. I really like being on the ground with people who are on their way up, who are like building. And particularly in Paris, as much as New York, because Paris is a more global market. So you really get to see, like, if the same trend pops up from somebody from Germany and somebody from Korea and somebody from Buenos Aires, you're like, whoa, what's going on? What's in the air? Like, it's interesting. So that's sort of what I do with Dilettante.
Well, you mentioned a minute ago about the name. Where did you get the name from?
I got the name because when I would go to Paris with my friend Stacia, who had the store, we would go to dinners with all of these designers and store owners, and it would be this big international table, and it made sense why everyone else was there. And then they would say to me, "So what are you doing here? Are you a reporter? Are you a store? And I'd say, "Oh, no, I'm just a fashion dilettante. I'm just a fashion dilettante." And it really kind of stuck. And in fact, it makes sense because my job is difficult to describe, and I really do love it. And I don't have to have the same concerns as a store owner or a designer. And that sort of frees me to really follow the intellectual path or the, global path of something. I can put things together in a much more organic way than if I was just concerned with my bottom line.
Right.
So it's still a dilettante in a way.
You said you're not a designer. Have you ever tried, or would you like to?
No. No, I don't think I want to. I love to edit things. Like if I get something and I say, oh no, you know what, this should be longer, this should be taken in, so I would be great at working with a designer. I would be terrific at saying, no, you need to pinch that, you need to do this, you need to make that longer, you need to do that. But would I want to design my own line? No. I'm much more interested in sort of feeling this thump in my gut when I see something and say, oh my God, I had no idea that I needed that, but I need it. Like, no idea I want that, but that's what I want. Why do I want that? And inevitably, whenever I have that thump, that thing within the next year to 2 years explodes. And it happens again and again and again. Like whenever I see the thing that the bell goes off in my head, it always ends up becoming a major trend. So I really love that. So I don't know that I have that antenna to God, but I love recognizing that antenna to God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's the wackiest piece of clothing that you've ever seen at a trade show?
That I've ever seen at a trade show?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that I own.
That too, if you own anything really weird that you want to admit to.
Oh my God, I want to admit to Charlie, I wear this stuff. I love it. I'm like, I came to like this startling realization that my lifelong style icon forever is Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And so it's always like me trying to be Tim Curry as Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, crossed with like 70s Bowie. So anytime that I never was the kind of Jewish girl who straightens their hair. I always like some sort of tank top cutout that shows good shoulders. I always love a fishnet and a platform boot and something with leather and a boy short cut, and I'm just Frankenfurtering again and again and again. So my craziest thing that I have right now is I bought these ridiculous, huge platform boots with flames crawling up them. insane. I nearly bankrupted my family for these boots. I saw these boots and said, if I don't have these boots and I ever see anyone else walking down the street wearing these boots, I'm going to throw myself out of a window. I have to. Those are right now the craziest thing, but I have a lot of crazy things in my wardrobe. My husband and I actually have a game where sometimes I'll come out dressed in an outfit and he'll burst out laughing. And then make the either movie reference or cultural reference and then pull up a picture on the internet of what I look exactly like. I've done it subconsciously. So the most recent one, I was getting dressed and I came out and I said, how does this look? And he bursts out laughing and he says, you look like the fourth member of the Phantom Zone. And I go, what? And he pulls up a picture of Superman 2 with Kneel Before Zod and like the three of them from the Phantom Zone. And I totally am wearing the outfit. Like I am in the Phantom Zone uniform. I am one of the villains. So it's it's very, I lean toward the ridiculous. I don't even know how to answer what the craziest thing is that I've seen at a trade show, because a lot is crazy, but probably if it's really crazy, I've wanted it. So I don't know. That's hard. That's a difficult question.
Looking at your Facebook page, just as an example, there's people that ask you for fashion tips, like to go with their bag, for example. What fashion tips would you give to Pharah in a big blue suit?
She's fabulous. She has so much style. Pharah rocks. Pharah is so much. Oh my God, I wouldn't tell her to change a thing. She's rocking the power shoulder pads. She's like, I love like the single eye makeup. You know, she's got her Egyptian fabulous eye thing going on. I love her hair. She's like not concerned with, you know, trying to flaunt her assets. She's all power. She's all strength. Her blue suit is very this season Balenciaga, because all this season Balenciaga are like these very shiny catsuit things in these interesting colors. Pharah is totally on point. I think she rocks, man. I think they have styled her really well. I'm proud.
I just Googled 2017 winter Balenciaga. It's all big blue.
Right? It's so Pharah. It's so Pharah. Right. And they're all the pastels, but there's like the shiny fitted with the high boots. And Pharah would completely fit in on like a Balenciaga runway these days. She's awesome.
Incredible. You mentioned a moment ago David Bowie, who at time of recording we lost 1 year and 1 day ago.
Yes.
Are you a fan of David Bowie?
Lifelong, die hard. My absolute number one favorite ever, ever, forever. I still am broken up about this. I don't know if I ever will get over it. I remember trying to explain to my mother, because my mother really didn't understand how I was so devastated. And I said to her, I'm like, you know what, Ma, I think that your generation didn't have rock stars that you grew up with since you were kids. Like the people, like whoever she grew to love between the ages of 10 and 13, when you're so vulnerable and when you're so impressionable, and like the people who really make you into who you are, like they shape you, the musicians who shape you into who you become, the fact that my generation and the generations that follow got to have some of those musicians and then kept those musicians throughout their lives, and that those musicians continued to produce music and they continued to be touchstones, and those songs that they started being hooked on aged with them and only deepened. I mean, I was with Bowie for more than 25 years, for 30 years. I mean, Bowie has shaped my life. I would not be who I am were it not for David Bowie. So yeah, it felt like losing a member of my family. I lost a hero, and he's one of the few heroes in my life who never fell off their pedestal, and that's a big deal. someone who managed to be upright and generous and kind and good and a force for good and a force for art throughout my life. I mean, it's pretty extraordinary.